Look, man, y'all gotta be watching out, man, who y'all date and who y'all laying in bed with and all the things above. You feel me, man? Let me know in the comments down below if y'all have a crazy ex. I know I do. I have a crazy ex. I don't have too many of them because usually I end things on the good terms. Like, you know, you're not supposed to, just because you're not with that person don't mean that you're supposed to try to destroy that person. You once loved them on that level, so therefore treat it as such, you know, so don't be disrespectful. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, let me know y'all stories in the comments down below, and let's just get straight into this video, man. Make sure y'all run this video up, man. If y'all having a bad day, just know y'all not going through it by yourself. When this thing called life together. Let's get it.
Zack Rodd. In 2019, a woman and her daughter were left homeless after her psycho ex burned down their home in Redruth, Cornwall, England. Charlene Clark and Zack Rodd, both in their early 30s, had a child together during a relationship which had lasted roughly 15 years. In March, Rodd left Clark for another woman. It was an unexpected move which Clark claimed had left her heartbroken. Only a few weeks had passed before Rodd tried getting back together with Clark, but she stood her ground and refused to accept reconciliation. Rodd, however, wouldn't leave the family home, pointing to his name also being on the mortgage. One night, Rodd and Clark attended a family memorial at a friend's house. Rodd got intoxicated and asked that Clark return home with him, which she declined to do. Enraged, he got back to their house and set fire to a mattress. He then sent Clark a series of threatening messages, one of which read, "Look, see the light? I warned you." Rodd went to a pub where he told other patrons that he'd started a fire which grew out of control. Not only had the blaze ravaged Clark's home, but it also expanded to 3 other terraced houses, prompting their occupants to flee for their lives. A disabled woman in one of the burning homes was only rescued because her caregiver was at the address at the time. In the aftermath, the insurance company refused Clark a payout because Rodd was the policyholder. Even though the fire had gutted the homes, no one was seriously hurt, and Rodd was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Number 7.
You should've, bro, cause bro, you could have killed a whole bunch of people with that. Like, just lighting shit on fire cause you mad at some vagina that don't want you no more. Crazy.
Berlina Wallace. In the early hours of September the 23rd of 2015, Mark Van Dongen awoke at his ex-girlfriend's Bristol apartment to the sound of her laughing and saying, "If I can't have you, no one else can." Within moments, Van Dongen experienced excruciating pain as sulfuric acid was thrown on his face and body. He ran into the street screaming in agony and alerted neighbors who called the authorities. 29-year-old Van Dongen's injuries were so severe that roughly 10 months had passed before he was able to speak about what had happened and give his account of the attack. The Dutch-born victim told the police that he'd ended his 5-year relationship with Berlina Wallace, originally from South Africa and nearly 20 years his senior. Van Dongen had started seeing another woman, but agreed to spend the night of September the 22nd at Wallace's home as he'd felt sorry for her, but also because she still had his passport. In an act described as pure evil, at around 3 a.m., Wallace dumped a glass of sulfuric acid on his face and body while he was in his boxers and had no form of protection. The impact was devastating, with a degree of disfigurement so severe that officials didn't release the photos of Van Dongen's face, but only those of the bed sheets, blackened by the corrosive fluid. Upon arriving at the hospital and seeing the extent of the damage, he reportedly began to scream and beg, "Kill me now." He spent 4 months in an induced coma and was left paralyzed from the neck down. Van Dongen lost an ear, the sight in his left eye, and most of that in his right, while his lower left leg had to be amputated. On January the 2nd of 2017, Van Dongen ended his life by euthanasia at a clinic in Belgium. Wallace tried to place the blame on the victim, claiming that he'd put the glass of acid on her bedside table, intending for her to unwittingly drink it. Her story didn't hold up in court, as there was insurmountable evidence pointing to her, including dozens of websites in which she'd researched the acid's effects. She was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 12 years served. Number 6.
What? Look, yo, I heard some shit, but that right there, bro, that got me on the edge, bro. You gotta always, man, look, y'all gotta be watching out, bro. Always be paying attention, man. You never know when your life is gonna change, man. Bro, over some sugar walls, bro, like a passport, bro. She can have that damn passport. We all learn from this right here, bro. It ain't even worth it. Keep going forward, bro.
Karina Vanessa Kobalan.
Wow.
In March of 2020, a Florida Instagram model was arrested for fatally shooting her ex-boyfriend outside his Hialeah home. 23-year-old Karina Vanessa Kobalan and Alejandro Sanchez, aged 28, had had a troubled relationship and, according to neighbors, were no longer together at the time of the shooting. Kobalan's popular Instagram page showed the blonde influencer posing in the foreground of several exotic locations, but featured no photos of Sanchez. An argument the nature of which remains uncertain erupted between them and culminated with Kobalan shooting at Sanchez 15 times. 5 of the bullets struck him in the chest. The victim's mother was at the scene and she was heard screaming at Kobalan that she'd killed her son. Kobalan, in turn, presumably not realizing the damage she'd done, was reported to have called out to her ex, wake up, Alex." Officers arrived to the scene and found her kneeling over his body, as well as a black Mercedes, the windshield of which was riddled with bullets. Sanchez was airlifted to Jackson Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Kobalan made her first court appearance in a vest designed to deter self-harm and was ordered to be held without bail. Number 5.
That's crazy, bro. A lot of times y'all just hear about these dudes doing crazy shit. Look, usually dudes just kill you, get you out the way. That's still terrible, right? But you got women throwing acid. Like, y'all be so mad these crimes be so heinous, bro.
Stephen Booth. In May of 2021, a builder from Manchester, England murdered his ex-wife with an axe, then called the police to come and arrest him. Stephen and Susan Booth, both in their 60s, had separated 3 years prior. Up to that point, they'd shared a home in Shaw near Oldham, which Stephen had had a significant role in building. The divorce proceedings were being finalized, and the marital home was proposed for sale at over $620,000. Susan had asked for half of the money, which enraged Stephen, as he felt that she didn't deserve it. Stephen, who hadn't talked directly to his ex for 2 years, was out walking his dog when a solicitor told him that the sale would be completed in 3 days' time. It was at that point that he started plotting Susan's murder. On May the 4th, he lay in wait at the home until she returned from a shift at the Royal Oldham Hospital. He struck her from behind with an axe and then continued his gruesome attack, ultimately inflicting 19 axe strikes, most of them to the head. Susan sustained devastating injuries and was pronounced dead shortly after being rushed to the hospital, where she worked. Stephen called the police and told the operator that he'd just killed his wife and that officers should be sent to his home address to arrest him. He pled guilty to murder and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 22.5 years served, meaning that he was likely to die behind bars. Number 4.
Yeah, if he was a little bit younger, he'd be getting out, bro, and probably be marrying another woman, and she probably won't even know. There's a lot of people out here that's walking around currently that did some crazy stuff, bro, and they probably with one of y'all right now, man. So y'all better go ahead and start checking people's backgrounds and histories, because anything could pop up.
Samantha Meyers. In 2019, a woman was sentenced to 20 years in a mental health facility for a 2018 incident in which she'd forced her ex-boyfriend to have intercourse with her while threatening him with a machete. Montana woman Samantha Meyers broke into her ex-boyfriend's home while he was out at a gas station. When the unnamed victim entered the bedroom, she approached him from behind, pressed the blade to his throat, then ordered him to remove his clothes and get on the bed. She then climbed on top of him and they had intercourse, with Meyers reportedly biting the victim's arm in the process. The man would later tell the authorities he'd felt forced to comply with his ex's demands for fear of being killed. After the deed was done, Meyers reportedly swung the machete around and deliberately urinated on the bed. The victim was able to escape out the back door as his sister arrived home. When interviewed by the police, Meyers claimed that their relations hadn't been abusive, but reportedly became incoherent in her answers. She was charged with intercourse without consent, as well as aggravated burglary, assault with a weapon, and unlawful restraint, before eventually being deemed unfit to stand trial.
What?
Number 3.
What? Oh, she must have been a clear lunatic, bro. And you see how they try to downplay it, though? If that was a dude, bro, he wouldn't have been found unfit to be in court. I'm gonna be real with you. He wouldn't have been found unfit to be in court. They would have buried his ass.
Patricia Isadore and Junior Francis. In June of 2018, a woman was seen driving down a Florida highway at around 70 miles per hour, with her ex-boyfriend clinging to the hood of her car. 24-year-old Patricia Isadore and Junior Francis had broken up about 8 months prior. but were still living together. Isadore was getting ready to drive and pick up their daughter. Francis, who didn't want her to go because he also needed the car, launched his body onto the vehicle's hood. As Isadore would later tell officers, she didn't want to deal with any foolishness, so she just kept driving. The video of him holding on for his life on the highway, initially shared on Twitter, subsequently became viral. While clinging to the hood with one hand, Francis used the other to call the authorities, convinced he was going to die. He survived the hellish ride, largely unharmed, while Isadore was charged with culpable negligence, a misdemeanor, and was bonded out. Today's topic was requested by Andrei Korbachenko, Ale Lagarde, and King Eric. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Bonita Vivien Cui. In June of 2021, Bonita Vivien Cui was arrested for the premeditated and brutal killing of her ex-husband, Kerry Michael Rooney, at his Newmarket home in Brisbane, Australia. A witness had filmed the moment that neighbors rushed to help 51-year-old Rooney as he was lying in a pool of his own blood in the middle of the street. Cui, aged 53, had been monitoring Rooney's habits in the weeks leading up to the horrific attack. She went to his apartment armed with 2 knives, a bottle of bleach, and the toy replica of a gun. She waited in the staircase of his building and ambushed the father of one. When he returned home, Cui sprayed him in the face with the bleach and, as he turned around, stabbed him in the back and slit his throat. She continued to slash and stab Rooney as he ran down the street, screaming for help. One of the knives was reportedly still lodged in his body when the police arrived at the scene. Cui used the toy gun to deter bystanders from intervening, including a neighbor who'd sought to confront her with a baseball bat. Following her arrest, she'd allegedly told officers that she didn't want to pay child support anymore. Her trial is ongoing, but Cui refused legal representation, claiming she couldn't afford it, even after being told that it could be provided at no charge. She tried to claim self-defense, but detectives assigned to her case reported that there was no evidence of it.
That's crazy. Look. Hey, everybody, look. Marching for equal rights and shit. Look, now you gotta pay child support and you're mad? No, what about that shit? Like, oh, no, this is your child. You have to pay child. You have to. No, what happened to all that kumbaya shit? Like, you know what I'm saying? Now when it's turned, the shoes put on the other foot, you can't take it. Nah, absolutely not. Pay that damn child support. That shit crazy. If you can, pay what you can. Pay what you can. If it's $50, $100 a month, pay something. You know what I'm saying? You gotta educate yourself.
Number 1. Joseph Oberhansley. In December of 1998, in a meth-fueled jealous rage, Utah man Joseph Oberhansley gunned down his teenage girlfriend. He proceeded to shoot his mother, who survived, and then fired at his sister, but missed. In a bid to end his life, Oberhansley tucked the gun under his chin and pulled the trigger. He didn't die, with the bullet instead becoming lodged in his head, effectively giving him a partial lobotomy, the part of his brain that was affected by the gunshot controls emotions, personality, decision-making, and self-control. He ultimately pled guilty to manslaughter and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Oberhansley would later tell a parole board that he regretted killing his girlfriend and that having a bullet in his frontal lobe had made him calmer. However, according to his family members, it turned him into a monster, and they noted increasingly obsessive behavior. Even though some of his relatives insisted that Oberhansley remained locked up, he was paroled in 2012 and transferred to Indiana. In 2015, he started dating 46-year-old Tammy Jo Blanton, who was 13 years his senior. Oberhansley was vague about his past, but Blanton eventually learned the truth, which, in the context of his controlling behavior, caused her to fear him. She ended their relationship and asked her father to change the locks of her home. In the early hours of September the 11th of 2014, Blanton called the police, claiming that her ex-boyfriend was trying to break into her house. Officers arrived at the address and confronted Oberhansley, who agreed to leave. Later in the day, the police went to check on Blanton again after she hadn't shown up for work. There were signs of forced entry at her home, and Oberhansley answered the door, claiming she wasn't home. Officers searched him and found a knife in his pocket, covered in blood and hair. In the bathtub, they discovered Blanton's mutilated body under a camping tent. She'd been beaten, stabbed, and cut open with an electric saw. Parts of her lungs, heart, and brain had been extracted and cooked in a skillet. Oberhansley admitted to officers at the scene that he'd killed and eaten part of his ex, but subsequently changed his story, claiming he was being framed by two intruders. He made a series of bizarre statements, which included him being able to hear Blanton's thoughts and complained of a tingling in his head, telling interviewing officers, "I'm like electrifying right now." Oberhansley was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
And you know what's that shit right there, bro? That's on a whole nother level, y'all. That's on a whole nother level, man. If you think about it, yo, like, this man was absolutely nuts, bro, because he shot his own nugget, bro, and he had a bullet lodged in that dome piece. You know what I'm saying? Like, now he gets super crazy. He was already thrown, but now he has no feelings and emotions at all, like none. Man, come on now, ain't no stopping this man. Ain't no stopping. He need to be locked up for the rest of his life. Boy, he needed, look, he needs something else. Let me know the sentence that y'all think. And what do y'all think is the worst case? I honestly think that acid was the worst one, but this last one was just extreme. You feel me? But look, man, let me know how y'all felt about this video and share y'all stories, man. This community right here is steadily growing, and we got a bunch of dope people, man. And share your stories down below. People are listening, people are watching, people are paying attention. Like I always say, y'all not in this by yourself. We're a community. But man, like I always say, spread love because there's too much hate in this world. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. And I'm out though. Blah.